Afghanistan, 2002. A Navy SEAL falls from a helicopter during a mission gone wrong. He's stranded, alone, on a freezing mountain, surrounded by enemy fighters. What followed became one of the most heroic and tragic rescue attempts in U.S. military history. This is the story of Takur Gar. Operation Anaconda begins. In early 2002, U.S. forces were hunting down the last pockets of al-Qaeda and Taliban resistance in eastern Afghanistan. The mission was called Operation Anaconda. Named after the intent, squeeze the enemy from every side. The location, the Shahikat Valley, a rugged, snowy terrain filled with caves, elevation, and fortified fighters. Intel showed the high ridge lines were key. Whoever held them had visibility over the valley and total tactical control. One of those ridge lines was Takur Gar, 10,000 feet of jagged rock, frozen dirt, and brutal weather. U.S. command wanted a SEAL team positioned at the peak for surveillance. That team, Mako 30. Their plan was simple: insert at night, quietly establish overwatch, and guide in supporting fire. But like many plans in combat, things changed fast. A delayed insertion and daylight exposure, Mako 30 was scheduled to land under the cover of darkness. But mechanical delays, shifting weather, and confusion between units caused hours of delay. By the time they lifted off in an MH-47 Chinook helicopter, call sign Razor 03, it was almost dawn. Daylight in this terrain was a nightmare. Taliban and al-Qaeda fighters were known to watch the ridgelines, and this chopper wasn't stealth. It was a flying bullseye. Still, orders were given: insert at Takur Gar. As Razor 03 approached the peak, everything went wrong. The fall of Neil Roberts. At 10,000 feet, the Chinook was vulnerable. Thin air, slower climb, no room for error. As Razor 03 hovered over the landing zone, heavy machine gun fire erupted from the tree line. Then a rocket-propelled grenade hit the underside. Chaos. And in that chaos, Petty Officer First Class Neil C. Roberts fell. He tumbled off the ramp, landed in the snow below, behind enemy lines, alone. The pilot made the call: emergency withdrawal. They pulled away, leaving Roberts on the mountain, but not for long. A man alone on a mountain, Neil Roberts was on his own. But he wasn't running. He set up a defensive position, fired at his attackers, and made one last radio call for help. What happened next is still pieced together through drone footage and later accounts. Roberts held his ground for over 30 minutes, outnumbered, under fire. He fought until he was killed by enemy forces. He became the first Navy SEAL to die in action during the War on Terror. But the story didn't end there, because the men who left him behind were already planning to go back. The first rescue attempt, a second helicopter, Razor 04, took off quickly. On board, a quick reaction force from Task Force 11, including members of Delta Force, Air Force combat controllers, and Navy SEALs. They knew the risks. They knew they were flying into a hot zone. But in their world, you don't leave a man behind. They tried to land near Roberts' last known location. As they approached, they came under the same withering fire. RPGs, machine guns, small arms. Their bird took damage, but landed long enough to deploy operators. The second rescue force was now on the mountain, and they were in deep. Close quarters hell. The team on the ground faced an ambush. 2 SEALs were killed in the fighting: Senior Chief Petty Officer Britt K. Slabinski, Petty Officer First Class John Chapman, and Air Force Combat Controller Chapman, who was severely wounded, made a last stand. He regained consciousness, picked up his weapon, and fought off several attackers before being killed. His actions would later earn him the Medal of Honor. And at this point, Takur Gar wasn't just a rescue mission. It had become a war zone. reinforcements arrived. It took hours for more helicopters and troops to reach the area. As the U.S. realized how serious the engagement was becoming, they deployed elements of the 10th Mountain Division, 75th Ranger Regiment, and Air Force Special Operations. Chinooks and Blackhawks weaved through mountain passes, under fire, dropping off troops wherever they could land. Snow turned red. The mountains shook from gunfire and airstrikes. The battle for Takur Gar had escalated into a full-blown firefight on a 10,000-foot peak. In sub-zero temperatures, with thin air and relentless attacks, American forces fought to clear the summit and bring their brothers home. The cost of courage? By the end of the battle, 7 American servicemen were killed. Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, Technical Sergeant John Chapman, Sergeant Philip Svitak, Sergeant Jason Cunningham, Corporal Matthew Commons, Sergeant Bradley Croce, Specialist Mark Anderson. Dozens more were wounded. Many others returned scarred, physically and emotionally. But Roberts' body was recovered. Chapman's stand was recorded on infrared drone footage, and every man on that mountain fought like they knew the world was watching. What happened on that peak wasn't just a failed mission or a tragic story. It was a testament. Several men received Silver Stars, Bronze Stars, and Purple Hearts. John Chapman would posthumously receive the Medal of Honor, becoming the first Air Force airman since Vietnam to earn the nation's highest award. And Neil Roberts, the man who fell, became a symbol, not of tragedy, but of the code that these warriors live by. You go, we go. No one gets left behind. Takur Gar was more than a battle. It was a statement. No one gets left behind. If this story moved you, subscribe. Next week, we'll bring you another mission that tested the limits of courage and brotherhood.